2015 to 2017 BMW F800 GS, F800 GS Adventure. The lines between on- and off-road enthusiasts are becoming rather blurred nowadays, with a majority of major manufacturers having established themselves within the dual sport/adventure bike sector. BMW is one such builder, and is even into its second generation of adventure bikes with the F800 GS and F800 GS Adventure. The former is more of a casual commuter, fun bike, while the Adventure is geared toward touring and long-range work, and naturally, both come with the top-notch engineering one expects from BMW. Continue reading for my review of the BMW F800 GS and F800 GS Adventure. F800 GS. While it can be said that all bikes have a certain amount of form follows function apparent in the design, that is especially true with rides like these. Nothing else in the world looks quite like an adventure bike, and with good reason, because nothing else can straddle the line between two distinctively different worlds quite as well. This pair leads the way with a laced front wheel, bird's beak fairing and guards to protect the swept portion of the inverted front forks. All very off-road tastic indeed. An asymmetrical, side-by-side headlight arrangement gives the face a sort of winking robot look that comes off almost as accidentally cool, and an oddly shaped windshield tops off the whole thing with protection for the rider as well as the over-under instrument cluster. A typically high fuel tank bump gives the F800 GS brethren those classic, adventure bike fly lines that tumble down to the bench seat. While the base GS carries a straight seat with no distinction between where the rider area ends and the pillion pad begins, the Adventure has a proper scoop with some rise to help keep the rider's butt in place. Exposed trellis frame members lend an air of strength with a confidence-inspiring skid plate to protect the stressed unit engine from terrain strikes. The base model comes with O-shit handles for the passenger ahead of a tapered subframe area, and the Adventure adds a luggage rack and hard saddlebags to facilitate the longer rides and touring activities it was built for. Short standoffs mount the turn signals all around, but they aren't quite as vulnerable to scrub strikes as one might imagine, and the tucked-away, LED tail lamp has a built-in modulator that flashes in a hard-to-ignore fashion. Personally, I like that feature for the extra bit of safety it provides, and since there's really no downside to it, there's no reason to not throw it on at the factory. F800 GS Adventure. Tubular steel members make up the front of the stressed engine trellis frame, with square stock to form the rear for a balance of strength and weight, and a yoke-style swing arm made from aluminum to keep unsprung weight low at the rear wheel. A 26-degree rake and 4.6 inches of trail seem about right on paper, but leave the bike with an unfortunate tendency to understeer a bit at speed. Still, maneuverability is decent at lower speeds, and so the bike is agile enough to navigate off-road terrain with little fuss. Stout, 43mm UST forks support the front end on 9.1 inches of travel, but I'm a little disappointed to note a complete lack of adjustability. Really, guys? At least the rear monoshock comes with adjustable preload and rebound damping for a little ride control. A 21-inch front rim mounts a narrow, 90/90 hoop with a 17-inch rim and back for the 150/70 rear rubber, and the fact that they are laced fits the off-road facet nicely, plus they just look really cool. Twin pot calipers bite the dual 300mm discs up front and a single piston caliper binds the 265mm disc in back. Bless BMW for including ABS and for making it switchable for those times you'd like a little bit of slide in your ride. F800 GS. BMW pushes these rides with a water-cooled, parallel twin that comes with counterbalancers to dampen the engine vibrations so your butt and hands won't get the tingles on you. Dual overhead cams time the 4-valve heads. A relatively hot 12:1 compression ratio means you'll be feeding it the premium pump champagne to prevent pre-ignition/detonation. Naturally, Electronic fuel injection delivers the juice to help develop the 85 ponies at 7,500 revolutions per minute and 61 pounds of grunt at 5,750 revolutions per minute while meeting EU4 emission standards and delivering 54 miles per gallon. Oh, and the catalytic converter doesn't hurt, either. The short-stroke mill runs an 82 mm bore and 75.6 mm stroke for a total displacement of 798 cc, but as you can see, the power numbers look more like what you might expect from an engine closer to the 1-liter mark. A standard, mechanically actuated clutch couples engine power to the 6-speed gearbox, no need for a slip and assist clutch here, and a tough chain drive makes the final connection to the rear wheel. F800 GS Adventure. MSRP on the base model F800 GS runs at $12,495, and the Adventure model understandably commands a bit more cheddar at $13,895. Of course, that's before you start looking at the tasty options BMW has on the menu, such as the lowered seats and suspension, electronically controlled suspension components and traction control, just to name a few. Even though there's no shortage of competition on hand, the Japanese market didn't have anything with just the right displacement for my head-to-head with a base F800 GS, but just a short hop west across the English Channel is all it took to find the Tiger 800 XR by Triumph. While I never have cared for the bird's beak front end, I can't say that I'm particularly fond of the headlight can and windshield arrangement on the Tiger. It reminds me of a pair of glasses that has slipped too far down someone's nose. Beyond that difference, there's quite a bit of similarity between the two, from the vented engine cowl to the stereotypical fuel tank bump and on back to the bench rider, pillion seat. Both bikes sport a rider triangle that's comfortable and natural when seated, and allows for an upright, standing position for technical off-road work. Exposed frame members are a constant across the board, but the BMW definitely looks sexier with its trellis members peeking out at the sides. Inverted front forks are also featured on both rides with guards to turn grit and grime away from the inner fork tubes in order to protect the fork seals. I'll always prefer laced wheels to mags, especially on off-road bikes, so BMW definitely gets points there. The F800 also wins out in suspension travel with 9.1 inches up front and 8.5 in the back versus 7.08 6.69 with the Tiger, and this translates directly into greater off-road capability, though to be fair both bikes are a bit heavy to be making jumps or other shenaniganery that will really test those numbers. Big, dual front brakes and switchable ABS is standard equipment on both rides, so neither gains an advantage here. BMW runs a parallel twin mill that packs 798 cc but Trumpet favors its 800 cc triple for the Tiger. Liquid cooling and dual overhead cams with 4 valves per head are constants, but the power figures clearly show the difference between the engine configurations. While the twin is gruntier with 61 pound-feet of torque and 85 horsepower, the Triumph Triple brings the ponies with 95 horsepower but only 58.3 pound-feet. The more widely spaced power pulses from the BMW are definitely more conducive to riding on soft surfaces, since they give the rear tire a split second longer to gain purchase. Triumph picks up a minor victory at the till with an $11,700 sticker, a bit shy of the $12,495 price tag on the GS, but honestly that's not enough to make a real difference to someone on the fence, or to combat brand loyalty. My husband and fellow motorcycle rider, TJ Hinton, says, about what I expected, a solid, capable ride. However, I'm a little let down by the lack of features included with the standard equipment. I mean, most of what I'd like to see is available as optional equipment, and I know the factory is trying to keep prices competitive, but it just doesn't have quite as much of that wow factor I normally walk away with. Oh well, sometimes good enough has to be good enough. It has snappy acceleration and a low center of gravity, so the weight isn't too much of a problem, especially at speed. I'd probably go for something smaller as a commuter, but this is commuter-worthy since it is maneuverable at low speeds for lane filtering, though I'd probably take off the panniers and put on a taller windscreen if that's how it was being used.